Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Live at 4 on this Wednesday. How you all doing?
I hope everybody is doing well. Everything's closed. The schools, the stores, the bars.
The bars are closed. This is Wisconsin. Come on.
But we are open for business.
We are open for business. We had a full contingent of reporters here, so got a lot of news to report, and here's what's making news today. We've made it through one of the coldest days most of us have ever experienced. We'll look at house fires and power outages that struck in the bitter cold.
It has been a challenging day. It's going to be a challenging 48 hours. A surprising report says Foxconn may change what it plans to do at a huge facility in Wisconsin. Rose Schmidt has reaction.
And on Capitol Hill, lawmakers meet to come up with a compromise on border security to avoid another government shutdown.
Let's take a look outside today. It was sunny but bitterly cold, although we didn't break a record, but it certainly felt like it. Oh, that's a wintry picture.
That pretty much sums it up. The weather words, near record cold, and Dave Caulfield is here now, and we're probably going to break a record tomorrow night.
Yes, by a lot, in fact, with temperatures dipping close to -30 as we get into the overnight hours, and that could be only the third time in Madison's history that temperatures fall to -30 or below. Right now, though, it's not half bad with temperatures only around -10 outside in downtown Madison. We are down to -12 at the last hourly update. Wind chill of -27, even though that wind is rather calm. And with the wind calming down tonight and tomorrow, that will be good news for our wind chills, but not necessarily good news for our temperatures, because that will kind of calm the air down, and that will allow things to really cool down even further than they did and then those temperatures did yesterday. So temperatures right now, -12 in Madison, -11 in the Dells, -14 in Camp Douglas. Wind speeds out of the west at about 5 to 10 miles per hour, making it feel more like -25 to -35 across southern Wisconsin. A live look in Madison at wall-to-wall sunshine on the WISC-TV Skycam. At least we had that today. Temperatures will be quickly falling through the double digits below zero into the 20s below zero by the time we get to later on tonight, right around 10 p.m. So here's a look at your first alert traffic update. Not much going on across Dane County, so not much in the way of traffic. No major accidents or incidents to report at this time. Maybe a little bit slow in both directions on Stoughton Road, but that's about it. The Beltline is looking very nice, and University Avenue eastbound to Verona Road, that's 7 minutes. So that's looking good. Average speed of around 55 miles per hour. And Middleton to Sauk City westbound, that will cost you 17 minutes with an average speed of around 55 miles per hour. And that is your first alert traffic update. We'll take a look at just how historically cold we could get tonight in your first alert forecast.
And it's hard to believe it's only been below 30 twice in the history of the city.
Right. You would think that those numbers would be higher, but we have been on the cusp a bunch of times. We'll see if we can break through as we get into
I guess
tomorrow.
At this point,
yeah, why
well.
not?
All right,
yeah.
We'll see in a few minutes.
I hope everybody's getting through without serious problems.
Yeah, me too.
All right, thank you, Dave. First at 4, as Dave just said, we didn't quite break the record for low temperatures in Madison, but it certainly affected many of us.
All school districts were closed. Madison schools are closed again tomorrow, and most businesses shut their doors. Mail delivery has been canceled again for tomorrow. There were some people that had to deal with the bitter temperatures, though. 5 fire departments were called to put out a garage fire in Brooklyn on Church Street and were able to extinguish the blaze before it spread to the home, although siding on the house melted from the flames.
Madison firefighters were called out into the cold in the middle of the night to fight a house fire on the city's far east side. 10 units responded to the fire at a single-family home on Buckeye Road around 3 o'clock this morning. A neighbor saw flames coming from the roof, and a man living in the house was able to get out safely with no injuries. Temperatures were about 20 degrees below zero at the time of the fire without the wind chill. Madison's fire chief says he cannot remember a colder fire scene in his 3 decades as a firefighter. And in Janesville, 6 people are displaced after a duplex fire on South Academy Street. The fire started in the attic around 2 in the morning. The building is considered a total loss. 32 firefighters responded and took turns spending time outside in the cold. The cold was also a contributing factor to some major power outages in our area.
Yeah, thousands in South Central central Wisconsin were without power early this morning. Our Keely Arthur was in one of the hardest hit areas today and joins us with the very latest on that. Keely.
We were down in Mineral Point where nearly 3,000 customers were without power this morning. Alliant Energy Center said power went out just before 7 a.m. It was restored around 8:15 a.m. The outage impacted everyone from homeowners to business owners in Mineral Point. Nicole Fall, the owner of Midway Bar and Grill, said the power was restored quickly enough so her food supply wasn't impacted. Mineral Point was far from the only area with an outage. Madison Gas and Electric responded to an outage near McFarland this morning. A spokesperson there said they have staff working 24/7 this week to make repairs quickly.
The outage this morning, start to finish, I think we had everybody restored within just a couple hours. So typically it's not, you're not going to be looking at some 12-hour outage.
Outages in Beloit, Fitchburg, Grant County, Janesville, and Waldwick as well. And if you are without power, make sure to contact your energy provider so they are aware of the issue.
That's the thing I fear the most, the power
Me
going
too,
off.
yeah.
It's critical. All right, Keely, thank you.
Thank you, Keely. Another water main broke today, this time at Hilldale Shopping Center. Management noticed it about 11 o'clock today. It's flowing over the road near Motherhood Maternity, but luckily the management at Hilldale said it hasn't gotten into any stores. They had crews on site to get the main repaired, so they're hoping to have that done today. This is on top of 5 water mains that broke throughout the city of Madison yesterday.
And we are not alone when it comes to this weather. The deadly Arctic deep freeze is plunging much of the Midwest into record-breaking low temperatures. Chicago saw its coldest day on record, with the mercury falling below the previous low of -15 degrees. That was back in 1966. The bitter cold canceled 1,600 flights at Chicago's airports. Even train travel took a hit, with fires set to heat the tracks so they wouldn't crack.
Best thing to do is stay in, I guess. It's the coldest I've ever seen since 1983.
The cold suspended postal delivery across at least 9 states, and in Minnesota it was so cold it caused mechanical issues that brought snowplows to a standstill. That's cold. Well, lawmakers and stakeholders are reacting to the news today that Foxconn is reconsidering some of its plans in Wisconsin.
According to a Reuters report, Foxconn may drop plans to build LCD screens at its $10 billion campus in Racine County. And Rose Schmidt is here to explain. Rose.
Some big news in this political world today. Wisconsin agreed to pay the company $4 billion in incentives if it invests $10 billion and creates 13,000 jobs. Foxconn says it still intends to provide the jobs it promised, but even some local supporters aren't so sure. The Reuters report says Foxconn intends to hire mostly engineers and researchers rather than the blue-collar manufacturing workers. Local leaders say Foxconn has already invested more than $200 million in the state. The president of the Wisconsin Technology Council has supported the deal and remains assured that Foxconn will deliver on promises, but Democratic lawmakers are calling the news devastating for taxpayers.
They're a really diverse technology company, and the kinds of things that they will continue to do as they build out in Wisconsin are going to be a really good match for the technologies that we have here.
They come in with big promises, they get big incentives, and then in the end, things tend to fizzle out. So again, disappointed because you want to see that company grow in Wisconsin if it's at all possible, but at the same time, not surprised at all.
And Republican legislative leaders Speaker Robin Vos and Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald are blaming Governor Evers. In a statement, they said it's also not surprising Foxconn would rethink building a manufacturing plant in Wisconsin under the Evers administration. The company is reacting to the wave of economic certainty that the new governor has brought with his administration. But Evers' top aide is firing back, saying the governor has always said that protecting Wisconsin taxpayers, the local communities that have already made significant investments in this project, and our environment are his top concerns. And former Governor Scott Walker, who championed the Foxconn deal, tweeted this morning reminding people that Foxconn earns state tax credits based on investment and job creation, and if they don't follow through, then they don't get those.
All right, unfolding story.
Definitely.
Rose, thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Lawmakers tasked with negotiating a border security deal held their first formal session this afternoon. The House and Senate Conference Committee is trying to come up with a way to fund the government and come up with beefed up border security. Natalie Brand has more from Capitol Hill.
The task before the House and Senate Conference Committee is clear.
We can reach a bipartisan agreement.
fund our government, secure our country and our borders.
The 8 Republicans and 9 Democrats have until February 15th to resolve the border security issue or face another possible government shutdown.
It's unfortunate that this issue has become so politicized.
Republicans say a wall is necessary to secure the southern border.
I want to be candid with my friends. I do think we need a wall, a physical barrier, where the barrier works.
But Democrats say the money should go to modernizing the ports of entry, where government data indicates most illegal drugs enter the U.S.
Smart border security is not overly reliant on physical barriers, which the Trump administration had failed to demonstrate are cost-effective compared to better technology and more personnel.
And no matter what kind of agreement the conference committee is able to reach, there is one person in particular who will be required to sign off on the deal.
President Trump has been pushing for a border wall since he announced he was running for office. This morning, he tweeted that a wall or barrier needs to be part of the discussions, or lawmakers are wasting their time.
Hopefully we'll get something that everybody can agree on.
He said you're wasting your time.
Well, he says a lot of stuff.
President Trump has indicated if he does not get a fair deal from lawmakers, he would bypass Congress and use emergency powers to fund a wall. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Democrats have vowed to fight any emergency declaration in the courts.
Well, still to come at 4, this record-breaking polar outbreak is not only tough on people and our pets.
It's also taking a toll on the birds, but there are things you can do to help our feathered friends. Bird expert Stan Temple is here. He'll join us next with some advice when Live at 4 continues.
Welcome back. High-level talks are underway in Washington that could be critical to the future direction of the global economy.
Teams from the U.S. and China have started complex negotiations aimed at breaking through the 6-month trade war. The U.S. delegation includes Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, Economic Advisor Larry Kudlow, and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross. Adding tension to the standoff, though, this week the Justice Department brought criminal charges against the Chinese tech giant Huawei.
According to the indictment, in 2012, Huawei began a concerted effort to steal information about a robot that T-Mobile used to test mobile phones.
The case has thrown a cloud over the talks, but the U.S. says it is completely separate from the trade negotiations. If they don't reach an agreement by March 2nd, the Trump administration is scheduled to hike tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese imports.
The Federal Reserve decided not to raise interest rates for now, and that sent stocks soaring. The Dow Industrials up 434 points, breaking the 25,000 mark once again. The Nasdaq Composite Index added 154. The S&P 500 gained 41. Well, the Arctic air has settled over Wisconsin, creating miserable conditions for people and our pets.
Especially dog walkers. It's a big challenge, but many animals are well adapted to thrive in the cold, but the birds could use a little bit of our help. UW Emeritus Professor and bird expert, our friend Stan Temple is back with us today. Hi, Stan.
Hi, good to be back.
Good to see you. So how are our birds doing with this bitterly cold weather? How big of a threat is it to them?
Well, it's actually a pretty big threat. For birds, this is unusual as it is for us. A number of years ago, my students and I did a big study looking at the overwinter survival of birds. And we found that during periods when the temperature stayed below zero, the survivorship of birds dropped by about a third.
Wow.
So during that brief period of cold, it really does take quite a toll.
And this is a prolonged period
And
of
this is a
below
prolonged
zero.
period, so it will take a toll, especially on smaller animals.
Is there anything we can do to help the birds?
Well, they need shelter. They need places that they can reduce their heat loss by getting into some kind of dense foliage, getting into a cavity, getting on the south-facing side of a hill. But they also need to produce a lot of heat. And that means they have to burn up their body reserves of fat and replace that with food. And getting out and finding food when it's 30 below zero is a challenge.
So bird feeders help.
Yeah, bird feeders definitely help, especially if you can give them food that is high in lipids, sunflower seeds, suet, things that are packed with energy. That's what they need.
And what about their water sources that are all frozen this time of year?
Water's important and they will be attracted to it, but if they're getting enough food and their metabolism is humming away trying to keep their bodies warm, they're actually producing water in their body.
Do they become dependent on your feeder? You have to make sure you keep it going?
Well, that was an interesting question, and we did address that in our study. And we found that even if birds had free access to a feeder, ad libitum, as much food there as they would like, they only took about 20% of their food from the feeder.
They want to get it naturally.
Well, they're keeping their options open.
Oh, I see.
Because
work in the neighborhood.
In nature, food isn't always there. So they're constantly checking sources of food, making sure that if one source fails, they've got a reserve.
Oh, interesting.
That is very interesting. What are some of the kinds of birds we're seeing around the feeder this time of year?
Well, the birds that you're seeing this time of year are, of course, the birds that are adapted to normal Wisconsin winters. So they're birds, for the most part, that are either permanent residents that are here year-round, things like chickadees and nuthatches and woodpeckers and blue jays, or they're birds that have actually come from further north to spend the winter with us.
Like juncos.
So things like juncos and tree sparrows are all birds that view southern Wisconsin, at least normally, as a nice place to spend the winter compared to Canada.
And often, on the ground at the feeders, you're going to see some rabbits show up and some squirrels. They need help too.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not just birds. The other animals, it's really the biggest challenge for small animals because they're the ones that lose a lot of heat really fast. And, of course, they can't carry much insulation. Yeah. A little bird can only have so many feathers on it. Bigger animals retain the heat and they can have better insulation. So by the time you get to something the size of a rabbit or a squirrel or a deer, they're actually in reasonably good shape compared to some of the smaller birds.
And a normal winter, they're okay, but it's just this kind of polar.
This cold
Sub-zero.
is really bad. And for the larger animals, really, you know, they just kind of shut down.
Yeah.
They just stay
As
put.
we all do.
As we all do.
Yeah, hunker down.
Some relief from the weekend at least, so that'll help a lot. So get out, help the feathered friends out. Put out a feeder.
Stan, great to see you.
Good to see you. Stay warm.
Yep, thank you.
Well, fans are pouring into Atlanta in anticipation of this weekend's Super Bowl.
Including some very young fans looking to take part in that NFL experience. We'll have that story coming up after Dave's forecast.
Take a look at this. Check out the massive air Bradley O'Neill gets off this sand dune jump in California. You can see as he pulls his parachute, a chute for his motorcycle also deploys for a soft landing. Bradley captured this amazing moto-based jump from multiple angles, including one from the bike itself. Bradley's been practicing for years to get the speed, the launch, and the landing just right so he can pick up the bike and jump again.
Oh, that's a cool view from there.
That is a cool view.
Nice to see some sun and sand, too.
It's a little warmth out there. Because today is the coldest, it's the record for the coldest day it's ever been in Madison.
Yep, minus 37, 68 years ago to the day. Madison set its all-time coldest temperature record, and that's without the wind chill, keep in mind. These are the front pages of the local papers from that afternoon and the next day. University of Wisconsin-Madison burned almost 600 tons of coal in a 48-hour period, 3 times the amount it typically burned despite the cold. Madison schools were open on that day. Is that true? Oh my goodness. Although the Cap Times reported attendance was down. I would think so.
And the bottom of that newspaper was Liz Taylor got divorced again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's also on this day.
Which is more surprising.
Also on this day, a much warmer event took place. Our chief canine correspondent, Lola, was born on this date 13 years ago. It was a Sunday. It was 28 degrees in Madison with no precip. Happy birthday, Lola.
Happy birthday.
13
wow.
today.
Wow,
Lucky
you have a
13
teenager.
there. Yeah, exactly.
I looked it up. For a Shih Tzu, that's 68. 68 in dog years.
Yeah, she has been in remarkable shape.
And little Louie, her stepbrother, I think has perked her up a little bit.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so happy birthday, Lola. We'll have a little cake tonight, I think.
Yeah, we need a lot to perk us up with temperatures and wind chills like this. Now, the wind will be a little bit more tolerable overnight, but temperatures will actually be a little bit colder in some spots. We'll talk about record-breaking temperatures into tomorrow in your First Alert forecast. Good afternoon. I hope everyone had a great Wednesday. I hope everyone stayed warm on this very cold Wednesday. This morning, when some of these extreme wind chills were being reported, I was heading outside, heading to work, and the breath from my scarf went up into my glasses and froze instantly. I could not see a thing for a really long time, so it was a bit of a challenge just getting the couple of feet to work this morning. But Rochester, Minnesota reported a wind chill of minus 61 this morning. Platteville and Waukesha, minus 55, minus 52 in Baraboo, minus 50 in Janesville, a little bit less than that in Madison at minus 48. And we still do have some dangerous cold and dangerous wind chills to worry about tonight into tomorrow. So here are our upcoming alert days for tonight. Lows as low as minus 30 in some spots. And I think we could go below that, in fact, folks. Wind chills of minus 50. Again, as I mentioned, the winds are a little bit less, so our wind chill chill numbers will be a little bit more tolerable. If you could call minus 50 a little bit more tolerable comparatively, it might be. But we are absolutely going to smash the record low of minus 22, the daily record low that is set back in 1985. And for tomorrow, we're going to be close to the record low high when we get to our high of minus 4. Some light snow is also possible in the afternoon. A wind chill warning goes until 10 a.m. tomorrow for southwestern and south central Wisconsin, and for southeastern Wisconsin goes until noon. Finally, we start to see those wind chills behave a little bit more by the time we get to Thursday afternoon. It looks fine outside. Looks can be very, very deceiving in downtown Madison on the Edgewater Skycam. The high today was minus 10. We did dip to minus 26 early this morning when those wind chills were just at the insane numbers that they were. Right now, temperatures across the Midwest, minus 12 in Madison, minus 16 in Eau Claire, and minus 17 in Dubuque, Iowa. We zoom in, we could see minus 11 in Lone Rock, minus 14 in Camp Douglas, and that same number showing up in Juneau. Wind speeds out of the west a little bit better compared to what they were this morning at about 5 to 10 miles per hour, still making it feel like minus 27 in Madison, minus 34 in Prairie du Chien and Viroqua, and minus 31 in Lone Rock. So when you get lighter winds, you can often get colder temperatures. That's kind of the relationship, because the air is more still. It can cool down more than if that air was windy, because the wind tends to mix in some warmer air, and you can't necessarily get these very extreme low temperatures. So potentially our forecast low is minus 30. That could be tied for the second lowest temperature ever recorded in Madison. Of course, today is the anniversary of the coldest temperature set back in 1951 of minus 37. But minus 30 is nothing to sneeze at, for sure. Even colder than we were last night. Wind chills of minus 35 to minus 50 are still possible for tomorrow. High of minus 4. We could be talking about some flurries and snow showers in the afternoon. Future track not too optimistic about that, but really, temperatures become the main story as we get into tomorrow morning, with lows of about minus 25 to minus 30. A few flurries, maybe an inch of snow shower activity possible by the end of Thursday into Friday. And then as we look at our future track wind chills, it still could feel like minus 45 as we wake up tomorrow. Then those wind chills start to get above 0 as we get into later on Friday. So here's keeping up with the pattern. There's some crazy swings happening over the next few days. You can see that very, very cold air finally gets out of here, and we get some returns of blue and green to our pattern, and then some more cold air is possible. So it's up and down, making you have a face like this deer. We are the sultans of swing over the next few days, with a 73-degree temperature swing from Thursday morning to Sunday afternoon, from minus 30 to positive 43. Just absolutely unbelievable. And that could cause some problems of its own with fast melting and things like that. So we'll have to keep an eye out for those things. And then the cold temperatures returning for the end of next week. So really just don't get used to any particular temperature, because it will change pretty dramatically over the next 7 to 10 days.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But nothing quite as severe as we're having today.
No, that's good news. That's the good news. I don't think we'll see anything like this for quite some time, but still the colder temperatures look to come back for the kind of middle of February.
So just got to get through tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going from 0 to 73.
Right. It's nuts.
From January to June.
Absolutely crazy.
In 2.5 days.
Yeah.
All right.
Buckle up.
Hang in there. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Well, thousands of football fans are converging on Atlanta this week, leading up to the Super Bowl.
Many are testing their football skills at a giant interactive park the size of almost 14 football fields. Meg Oliver is there.
America's biggest sporting spectacle catered to the youngest players Wednesday at the NFL Experience.
If you could rate the NFL Experience 1 to 10, what would it be? 10!
Football fans can do it all, from charging through obstacles.
Did you feel like Russell Wilson out there or Peyton Manning?
Yeah, I felt, I kind of felt like both of them at the same time.
Hurling their best Hail Mary to racing the clock in the 40-yard dash. Kids have ruled this turf all week.
What was your strategy?
Mine was just to go fast.
Yeah, did you go fast?
Yeah.
Yeah, how fast are you?
About a 90% fast.
It's a photo op at every turn. Fans posing in their team's jerseys and selfies with a sculpture of the Lombardi Trophy. If you just turned 6, it can be a tad overwhelming.
I just had a birthday.
You just had a birthday?
Yeah.
How hard was that?
Pretty hard.
Did it take a lot of skill?
Maybe.
Kids of all ages have been known to test their skills here, but CBS Sports pregame host James Brown plans to stay clear.
If there was one event that you could get in there and do, what would it be?
You're trying to embarrass me now?
Come on, what would it be?
So, how old am I now, Miss Oliver? The one event would be me playing announcer to talk about it. That's my gift right now.
All right.
All I can do is talk about it.
As for the kids, they would rather be running. Meg Oliver, CBS News, Atlanta.
You've been to the NFL Experience
3
a
times,
time
yes.
or two.
It's always a lot of fun.
You can watch Super Bowl 53 right here on Channel 3 and CBS this Sunday.
And hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yes, let's hope.
Let's hope. Well, still to come at 4, are you in the market for a new TV to watch the big game?
Well, you're not alone. When we come back,
millions will tune in to the Super Bowl at home. I'm Hillary Lane with Consumer Reports recommendations for the best TVs to watch the big game.
there's a look at frozen downtown Madison.
And Jeannie, keep going, keep pumping it out.
Exactly, keep doing the good work. It's good to have the sun, too.
Yeah, that helps.
Because a little light snow might be on the way on top of it tomorrow. More than 100 million people are expected to watch the Super Bowl this Sunday.
Hillary Lane went to Consumer Reports headquarters to find out their top TV choices for game day.
If you're in the market for a new TV, there's good news.
TVs have gotten bigger, but they've also gotten less expensive.
Consumer Reports' Jim Wilcox put out his picks for the best Super Bowl TV deals and says it's a good time to buy.
We did a study a year ago and saw that in the 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, TVs were 22% cheaper.
TVs today are almost all very thin and smart, with streaming apps built in. What separates the new models is how they look and sound. For people willing to spend around $2,300, this LG OLED TV is one of the highest rated.
So it's got great picture quality, it has excellent sound quality, it has an unlimited viewing angle. So if you were to move off to the side of this TV, you would see the same picture as a person sitting in front of it.
This Vizio Quantum Series model is a little more affordable at around $1,500.
So a good mid-price TV for people.
Yeah, so they're trying to deliver that higher performance at a more, mid-level price point.
For those looking to spend less than $1,000, Consumer Reports recommends this 65-inch Samsung.
For a lot of people, this is a great set at a great price.
Most new TVs offer a higher resolution 4K picture, even though there is very little 4K content available. And TV makers are stepping up picture quality even more with 8K models.
8K just doesn't make sense. They're extremely pricey. We're just catching up with 4K content, so there's no 8K content.
Wilcox says if you're willing to wait, prices on today's best TVs will continue to drop. Hillary Lane, CBS News, Yonkers, New York.
And they say they go on sale even more after the Super Bowl.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense.
Well, if you have a medical question you'd like answered, now's the time to call in.
Dr. Zorba Pastor is here in the studio with us today. There he is. He's getting... Hi, Zorba.
I'm staying warm.
Yeah, good call. The number to call if you want to talk to Dr. Pastor is 270-9933. Call now. We'll be right back.
Good afternoon. Here's your Wednesday First Alert traffic update. No major accidents or incidents to report across Dane County. Not too much going on with this very cold weather. Overhead, the Beltline is looking pretty pristine at the present time with average speeds east and westbound of about 60 miles per hour. So your drive times are looking good no matter where you look. Eastbound John Nolan to the interstate, that's 4 minutes, average speed of around 60 miles per hour. And in the other direction, also looking very nice. And hopefully temperatures look a little bit nicer as we head into the next couple of days. John Nolan to Verona Road, that's 4 minutes, average speed of around 60 miles per hour. And that is your First Alert traffic update.
Who made this chicken? Who made it? Who made it? Why? Because I love it.
A diner in London surprised kitchen staff and fellow customers with an unusual show of appreciation for his food. Must be good chicken.
Well, I'm glad it went that way. I was a little worried there for a second.
Well, no need to venture outside today because the doctor is in.
Dr. Zorba Pastor is here to answer your medical questions. We're taking your calls at 270-9933.
Good chicken.
Yeah.
And it might be more important than your breakfast.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's exactly it. There's a recent article in the British Medical Journal, the BMJ, looking at whether or not breakfast is the most important meal in terms of losing weight. Now, first of all, we know for children it really is the most important meal. They do better at school. They do better on their tests because kids need that extra fuel in the morning. But adults, maybe yes, maybe no. And so this was a study of studies that looked at whether or not people who ate breakfast on a regular basis really had fewer calories at lunch and at dinner. And guess what?
No.
No, they didn't. No. Now, we do know that people who often eat breakfast have different habits. They often exercise more. They often pay more attention to their body. But when you look at it from a caloric point of view, breakfast does not necessarily decrease the number of calories you have at lunch and at dinner. So
but you shouldn't skip it, though, right? It's the fuel for the day.
Well, it's all a function of what you're doing.
Okay.
If you eat at 6 o'clock in the evening, and you don't eat until 12 o'clock the next morning, you're basically fasting for about 12 to 14 hours. That's not good for your body. But if you have a light breakfast at lunch and it keeps you from eating light breakfast and it keeps you from having as much at lunch, that's good. But the studies have not shown that eating breakfast gets you to lose weight.
Interesting.
But kids still
must have breakfast. It's important. Kids are different, especially young kids.
And this cold weather, doesn't it make you hungrier?
Absolutely, absolutely. Cold weather.
It's weird.
All right, we got some calls for you. Let's go to Amanda in Janesville. Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
Hi, what's your question?
Yeah, so what could be some causes of having diarrhea lasting longer than 3 days without really having a fever? I've been having a stomachache since like Sunday evening, and it's nothing is subsiding. Like, what do you think could be causing that?
Well, lots of different things. Diarrhea can be something very serious, or it can be something very innocuous, where it doesn't mean anything. If you don't have blood in your stool, if you don't have mucus in your stool, if you don't have a fever, if you're not vomiting, then usually we tell people, have a diet that basically we call it the BRAT diet: bananas, applesauce, rice, and toast. Those are things that you can have: bananas, applesauce, rice, and toast. A lot of water. Make sure you're hydrated. And if you're not better, this is one of the times you actually have to go visit your doctor.
Well, we had a lot of norovirus going around recently. Could it be that?
It could be that. Norovirus is usually a more serious diarrhea, often associated with vomiting. But yes, and the treatment for norovirus is the same thing: symptomatic treatment.
Okay. And time. All right, let's go to Renee in Madison. Hi, Renee. Renee,
Hi.
you there?
Yes, I'm here.
What's your question?
My question is, I get with the bottom of my sole and my feet itches a lot, and I was just going to ask the doctor, do he know something that I can stop that? Like
Well,
some kind of lotion or something.
itchy feet are actually not an uncommon thing that people talk about at all. First thing I tell people is change your soap, see whether or not it's a soap issue. Go to Dove, something like Dove, go to the pharmacy, ask the pharmacist or the cosmetician about a soapless cleanser. Alpha Carry is a soapless cleanser, Cetaphil is good too, because often we do that and our feet can become just a little bit too dry. The other thing is make sure you're wearing cotton socks. Cotton socks wick away the moisture. Nylon does not wick away the moisture. Those are the things you kind of look at for itchy feet. And finally, if you shower every day, go to every other day or something like that, because sometimes we make our skin too dry.
Especially this time of year.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Rebecca in Madison. Hi, Rebecca. What's your question?
Hi there. I'm wondering, like, if I have, like, I've had, like, a rash on, like, my stomach area, and the doctor prescribed, you know, like an ointment, but that's not really working. And is there something over the counter that you would suggest that is a little bit stronger? Or not stronger, but I'd rather not use that because it's not really working.
Right. It's usually stronger when you get a prescription, you know, ointment that's there. I always tell people go to Aquaphor or Eucerin. Aquaphor or Eucerin. They're ointments essentially and creams that are very, very good. They're non-medicated and they often will work, especially this time of year. If it's itchy, a little Benadryl at bedtime, 25 milligrams might also help you.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Sherry now in Mineral Point. Hi, Sherry.
Hi.
Hi. What's your question?
I've just been diagnosed with degenerative arthritis, and I've had an injection. I'm scheduled for another, and I will be 62 in March. I'm wondering if this is something that I can get disability for.
Oh, that's very hard to say. Arthritis and degenerative arthritis is one of the things we often call it, is a very, very common thing. Disability is determined by Social Security, special thing. Lots of people have arthritis. I mean, I've got a little arthritis here and there. It all depends on the severity of something like that.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
This knee, this hip.
Yeah, here, this joint over there, the back over there, sometimes the neck over here. That's right.
Isn't it
It's
fun
amazing
getting
we can actually move. That's exactly
Isn't
it.
it fun getting old?
That is so much fun to get old, exactly.
Disability, that's tough. That's tough to get.
That's tough to decide. And that depends on whether or not you actually are disabled by federal standards and state standards. It's a very, you can't answer that over the air.
Yeah. All right, that's our time for now. Thanks to you all for calling in, and you stay warm.
I will. That's why I've got my hat on.
That's a good idea. All right, so we'll
Thanks,
see you
Orville.
soon.
Good to see you.
We'll be right back with the final check of your forecast. Another 24 hours or so.
Yeah, and then things start to improve as we get closer to the weekend. But tonight, bitter cold, dangerous cold once again at -12 right now in Madison. Those temperatures could go as low as -30 or even colder in some spots by the time we get to tomorrow morning. Could be feeling like -35 to -50 by later on. Right now it feels like -27. That's a lot of negative numbers to talk about, but we will be feeling dangerously cold as well as we head into tomorrow morning's stay safe as we head into Thursday.
I'm looking for a more positive Dave.
Yes, me too.
In the future.
Me too. The smile will be turned upside down.
It won't be frozen.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dave.
Tomorrow here on Live at 4, we'll find out what's happening in the 608 this weekend as we all slowly thaw out.
And we'll go behind the wheel with Harvey Briggs in the 2019 Ford Edge. It's a 5-passenger mid-sized SUV. That's coming up tomorrow on Live at 4.